Friends of Formula One, something is happening in Maranello that almost nobody is talking about, and it could matter just as much as the new engine itself. While everyone is focused on the A2 2 arriving at Monza, Ferrari simulators are running day and night on a completely different dilemma. Whether to remove or keep a famous little aerodynamic element positioned in front of the exhaust, the one we call FTM. Removing it means less drag and higher top speed on a track where 80% of the lap is spent flat out, but it also means losing downforce exactly where the car needs it most. And the paradox is striking, because the more power the new engine delivers, the more valuable that downforce actually becomes. I'll explain exactly why in a moment. There's also another major story, because Ferrari's plan for the final part of the season includes a deliberate step back at Singapore, returning to an older engine specification, and you'll quickly understand the logic behind that move. Then, I'll tell you why this Italian Grand Prix will be completely different from anything we've seen before, due to a regulatory change that radically alters how drivers approach the Lesmos. And finally, the one limitation that not even the new engine can fix, the same one that cost Ferrari dearly at Zandvoort. If you don't want to miss any updates on Ferrari and Formula One, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. With that said, let's get straight into the detailed analysis. Let's start with the most delicate decision of the entire weekend. Ferrari is running simulations to determine whether to remove the FTM element, that small component positioned just in front of the exhaust that generates additional rear downforce by redirecting exhaust gas flow toward the rear of the car. The main advantage of removing it would be obvious: a reduction in aerodynamic drag, allowing the SF26 to reach higher top speeds along Monza's long straights. In theory, Monza calls for a very low downforce car, so the option is very much on the table. But pay close attention to what the data is saying, because there's an important trade-off here. That element provides extra downforce that is extremely useful through the few corners on the circuit, corners that have a significant impact on overall lap time. And this is where the most fascinating piece of reasoning comes in. Keeping the FTM means having downforce exactly where it's truly needed, particularly at the Parabolica, where the car requires strong traction on the way out before the long straight toward the finish line. And with the A2 2 adding power, that traction demand at the Parabolica increases even further. More power means more torque on corner exit, which means greater load on the rear tires, which means the additional downforce from the FTM becomes even more valuable at the precise moment the new engine delivers its biggest gain. That is exactly the tension these simulations are trying to resolve. And on a track where energy management is critical and waste is never an option, improving traction can be worth a great deal. At this point, no final decision has been made, and Maranello will continue analyzing data right up until the last moment. Now, the reason why this weekend will be unique in recent history. In previous years, teams would run completely different and track-specific rear wings at Monza, sometimes using up to 6 different specifications across a single season, with Monza's ultra-low downforce wing representing one absolute extreme. In 2026, all of that changed dramatically because the new system that allows teams to reduce drag on straights means they can now run a single wing specification for the entire season, inverting the aerodynamic load on straights and restoring it through corners. The result is remarkable. The SF26 will arrive at Monza in a configuration comparable to what was used at Silverstone, something that would have been unthinkable in the past. And the consequences are enormous. Previously, the two Lesmo corners, fast and technically demanding, had to be approached with a heavily compromised setup, because the ultra-low downforce wing simply couldn't generate the load those corners required. Drivers were pushing up to the limit of what the wing would allow, not up to the limit of what the circuit was actually asking for. Now, Hamilton and Leclerc will arrive at the Lesmos in a car capable of producing real downforce, completely changing the approach and the traction demands on corner exit. And now let's talk about the engine, which is confirmed for the Italian Grand Prix. The central modification involves the turbocharger. The housing retains the same reduced diameter, but the impeller has been enlarged and the number and angle of the blades have been revised to improve filling in the upper part of the power delivery range. Added to this is a modified combustion chamber, which raises the temperature of the airflow, reaching the cylinder head from the compressor, producing higher combustion pressure and therefore more power for the same fuel consumption. Completing the package is a new Shell fuel, homologated specifically for this revised architecture. Reliability testing on the bench has returned positive results, with 6 simulated Grand Prix distances completed without any issues, as required by the approval process. The performance expectation is approximately 15 additional horsepower, which would translate to around 0.2 of a second per lap. At Monza specifically, a number that reflects the characteristics of a circuit where top speed influences lap time more than anywhere else on the calendar. And now, the part of the plan that almost nobody has connected to the Monza debut. Because 2 weeks after the Italian Grand Prix, Ferrari is reportedly evaluating a deliberate return to an older, non-updated engine specification. And the logic is impeccable. Marina Bay is one of the least power-sensitive circuits on the entire calendar. The lap is dominated by slow and medium-speed corners, heavy braking zones, and short straights that never allow the kind of sustained, flat-out running that makes the engine the primary performance factor. The 15 additional horsepower would therefore produce a much smaller gain there than at almost any other remaining circuit. So the reasoning becomes straightforward. If the new specification delivers minimal advantage at Singapore compared to the older one, running it there would consume valuable mileage from a finite number of components without contributing meaningfully to the result. Better to preserve it, then bring it back for Baku, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi, circuits where straight-line performance will be decisive for championship positions. This isn't just the story of a new engine. It's the story of how Ferrari is managing the remaining races with a finite number of components. But here's the thing. There is one issue that not even the A-Duo 2 can fix. With the third upgrade package, the rear instability problems appear to have finally been resolved. But in qualifying, a significant gap remains, both in terms of exploiting the engine's full power output and in terms of the operating window for the soft tire. The SF26 is a race car, one that manages its tires brilliantly over a full distance, but struggles to activate the soft compound for a single hot lap. And more power doesn't solve tire activation. What it does do, though, is reduce the penalty, because a car with 15 extra horsepower still exits corners faster, narrowing the qualifying gap even if the underlying limitation remains. At Zandvoort, the power unit deficit was estimated at around 0.4 of a second, and on other circuits it can actually be even greater. Ferrari cannot fully compensate for it through the chassis, and that deficit also affects race performance, though to a lesser extent. Both Leclerc and Hamilton had an extremely difficult time overtaking their competitors in the Netherlands, where the car's true potential was far higher than the final results suggested, and where execution problems cost them a much better opportunity. So you can see exactly why this weekend carries so much weight. At Monza, where straight-line performance matters more than almost anywhere else, Ferrari knows there is absolutely no room for compromise. And there's one more detail that makes the picture even more intriguing. Kimi Antonelli is expected to start from 20th position due to a penalty related to an engine change, while Ferrari has not had a single power unit reliability issue all season. A clean debut for the new engine, a direct rival forced to start from the back, and thousands of fans in the grandstands. Conditions that the current standings don't yet fully reflect. The picture heading into the Italian Grand Prix is genuinely compelling. A new engine worth 0.2 per lap, an aerodynamic decision still open that could be worth just as much, a regulation that makes this Monza unlike any other, and a component management plan carefully designed to arrive at the final races with everything in place. This fight is far from over,